The lessons contained in this week's Sidra are so overwhelmingly powerful that they deserve a great deal of attention. This particular week we are reading the Sidra of Tissa, and the Torah readings are extraordinarily long, especially the first couple in the Sidra, in the Torah that we're looking at. And why are they so long? They're long because they deal with afflictions, maladies that people could possibly have. They could be struck blind, they could be deaf, they could have innumerable illnesses that could etch themselves so deeply into the soul that a person who is being called up to the Torah and has to hear these curses that have actually been delivered to them could feel offended. So to protect their integrity, to cover for them, we lengthen the Torah readings so that no individual will feel put upon. You know, if you look through the whole Torah reading, it's going to be much the same. That this Torah reading is consumed with the integrity of people, how they feel. So much so that an entire tradition is based upon an understanding of how to protect one another, how to cover for one another. In the Torah reading that we're going to be looking at, it says, "V'natnu," that every Jew is responsible to give for another Jew. And "v'natnu" is a palindrome. It reads the same both ways. As if to say our sages, and don't lose this lesson, that when we give, we're giving to ourselves. That when we're doing something for another person, we are at the same time enriching ourselves. Think of how opposite the thinking travels to this idea, in this milieu, that if you give away money, you have less. Well, nothing could be further from the truth as far as the Torah is concerned. V'natnu says, and if you give, you will receive. What you give away ultimately comes back to you. The integrity of people, how people are to think of themselves and think of one another, is so powerful that there's an associated story that is told with this week's Sidra about the census that is taken, about a man who refused to do good for another human being. He refused to do good for other people because one time, when they were collecting money from the entire community, he didn't have enough to give, and so he spent a week in jail instead of being able to give what he needed to give. But he coddled himself, and he made himself feel so much better by just saying, well, I study a lot of Torah, so therefore if I don't give, it's okay. Because our tradition also says that it is so vital to study the tradition, so important, integral to our soul, to learn Torah, that it's equivalent to almost all the other mitzvahs. So this man comforted himself by saying, well, if I spent a week in prison for not giving it, if I didn't have it, it's just as good. So came another time when somebody was coming to collect an astronomical sum of money from the entire community because his congregation, his community was being held hostage. And unless he found enough money to redeem his community, the entire community would be annihilated. So this man came collecting, and this one person who had enough money to give now was asked to give, and he said, better I should spend my time for 100 weeks in jail. Better I should spend my time learning Torah than to give my money over to this venture. And that's when the rabbi of the community approached him and said, do you think for a moment that Torah is equivalent to saving a person's life? That the most important thing we can do is to hold on to one another in this great sea that we all swim in. To hold tight, to hold fast, to support, to buoy one another against the waves that threaten to wash over us and drown us. That we are the life preservers of one another. And the Parsha of Tissa speaks powerfully, forcefully to that idea. For it says, and it says quite directly, give a half a shekel for the sake of your soul. Give a half a shekel as an atonement for your soul. That our soul is so vital to God that we need to preserve it by preserving one another. That half a shekel of redemption is a half a shekel that we give to our brother and our sister to redeem ourselves. There is no redemption without saving one another. I wish you Shabbat Shalom, and between now and then I wish you ample opportunity to save a life. First theirs, and then, of course, through theirs, yours.